Howdy everyone, Shadowroo here, and I am your coach of the Sarasota Scissors, and today I have for you my team and battle analysis for the Woods Season 5, Week 4. This week, we're up against the Abbekerk Manectrics, coached by Al McWiggin. Now, okay, I know I keep saying, oh, all these teams are really scary, and oh, it's going to be a bit of a, scary battle and all that. Well, this week, I think that statement applies more than ever. He has one of the best mons in all of OU, Ferrothorn, another one of the best in Cinderace, several prominent physical setup sweepers in Haxorus and Snorlax, and just an all-around really varied and just can do so many different scary things. And to be honest, I don't know how I feel about that. Every year going up before this one, when I faced the Manectrics, let's just say I got bodied really, really hard. To be fair, I got bodied really, really hard by many, many people, but the point being, I really was not that good. I'm still not that good, but that's besides the point. Now, I really put a lot of effort into building this team this week. I really, really want to take this from him. Now, first off, I looked at his team, I saw Haxorus, I saw Ferrothorn, and I saw Cinderace. And I'm like, what can check several of them and maybe just do a lot of damage to Ferrothorn if possible? So I went with Incineroar. With a pretty basic set, Knockoff, Parting Shot, Willow, and Flare Blitz, and a pretty basic defensive spread with a little bit of Spadef in there just in case, you never know. With Intimidate, of course, being really, really nice. Even if Ferrothorn isn't offensive, it still has, like, Gyro Ball, maybe Power Whip, so that can hit other things on my team decently hard. So Intimidate just means that, oh, I can Intimidate off of it, and if I expect a swap and Parting Shot, but, oh, he stays in or something like that, then it just hits like a wet noodle, and I can do some stuff with that. The item was actually a toss-up between Choppleberry and Shuckaberry. I was debating Shuckaberry for Earthquake Haxorus, or hell, maybe Gastrodon or something. I don't know. Probably not Gastrodon though. I couldn't, KO it off of the berry, and usually I don't run damage-reducing berries unless I can either get a lot of damage off on something, or just put it in a spot where, oh, I have to swap out. Oh, I have to do something now. I can't just mindlessly click things. And I think that's why I went with Choppleberry, because with specifically Cinderace, it can high jump kick me. And if I swap in on it and get the Intimidate off, it actually does very, very little damage. Even without the Intimidate, it does relatively little damage. Hell, a Choice Banded Spread wasn't even a guaranteed 2-hit KO thanks to the Choppleberry. Well, actually, no, it was, but you get the point. Now, if I had done that and he clicked High Jump Kick, I could have swapped into, say, Jellicent. If he had decided to click High Jump Kick again, secure the KO. That would have been huge. It would have meant that I do 50% or so with Knockoff, and then he takes recoil from missing High Jump Kick, and we take those. So, yeah, Incineroar, pretty linchpin aspect of this team this week. I really need this thing just because I need to be able to cripple some of his physical threats with Intimidate and Parting Shot, and pseudo-check Reuniclus doesn't do a huge amount to defensive Reuniclus, and Focus Blast does heaps, but again, Choppleberry, so we take those. Next up, we have Defensive Mew. I decided to go with this because, again, lots of prominent physical sweeping threats. Will-O-Wisp is huge for that. Defog is really nice because he has Ferrothorn, he has access to rocks and spikes. Both of those are a problem, so being able to keep those off my side of the field means that it'll probably be really easy for me to keep my team alive. Well, not easy, it's never easy, but it'll be easier to keep certain mons alive and live certain roles, that sort of thing. So Defog is, this week, probably more than other weeks, really, really important. I'm not bringing hazards of my own, just because he has 3 Defoggers. Well, 2 Defoggers and a Court Change, but Court Change is a lot worse than Defog in that it puts those hazards on my side of the field, and I have to deal with them. So it's probably for the best that I don't bring rocks this week. I'm probably going to miss it, but he has a lot of contingencies for them, and, well, a lot of things that don't care about coming in on rocks. Heavy Duty Boots Cinderace, Magic Guard Reuniclus, that sort of thing. He has, like I said, 3 ways to get hazards off the field. So, yeah, we're running Roost and Psyshock instead. Roost lets me just stay alive against, like, Cinderace, because Pyro Ball does, like, 38%. Stays alive against Haxorus somewhat. If he just decides to, attack me, I can Willow him. And then if he tries to, set up after that, I can Roost up, get some damage off before I die, and come in Revenge Kill. That would be really cool. So, yeah. Mew this week is serving a defensive purpose without rocks, just to cripple some of those physical threats. It doesn't cover much with Psyshock, but it's better than nothing, and it does damage to those physical threats. Next up, I decided on Weezing. More specifically, Rocky Helmet Weezing over, say, Black Sludge. Specifically, just to be annoying. If Cinderace wants to come in and click U-turn, well, you're going to take some damage from that. I live a Pyro Ball pretty well. Obviously, Haxorus with Earthquake does still hit this thing because Mold Breaker be like that sometimes, but having access to Willow is still nice. And if he has Lumberry, at least I pop the Lumberry, and if he decides to just kill me, then good for me. Weezing can die, and I can come into something else while he's burned or has expended his Lumberry, so I can burn him again. If he decides to set up on me, I have Pain Split. I can Willow him. I can basically, if he D-dances and I Willow him, and his Lumberry pops and he's at +1, then he decides to attack me, I can Willow him again, I can Pain Split him to get him down on health. I can do a number of things with Weezing, even though I take a lot of damage from EQ, so it's just a nice thing to have all around. I think it also does decent Cinderace checking, because I live hits. Obviously I can't Willow it, but Sludge Wave does decent damage. And then Flamethrower, because Ferrothorn, aside from setting hazards on me, which is obnoxious, don't get me wrong, can't really touch me, so I can just Flamethrower him down. So Weezing, just another physical wall. We have a lot of those this week. Moving forward, we have Chimera, the Silvally, back again once again. This particular EV spread is something I decided to go with, mostly because, well, I can't outspeed Jolly Haxorus with this thing, but I can outspeed Adamant Haxorus. So I built this specifically to outspeed Adamant Haxorus. Not that he would probably bring Adamant Haxorus, I think he knows better than that, but just in case, doesn't hurt. I'm running Multi-Attack, Swords Dance, Psychic Fangs, and Flamethrower. Psychic Fangs is mostly on there to touch Weezing Galar, specifically because, well, that Pokemon is basically like my Weezing, but with an even cooler typing. So, probably don't want to, if I'm going to be setting up Swords Dances with this thing, I probably don't want to get walled out by it. I still kind of get walled out by Cinderace, but +2 multi-attack does like 70%, so it doesn't really matter. If I get a little bit of damage on it and he swaps in, he's gone. And then Flamethrower is on there for Ferrothorn. It does a guaranteed 2-hit KO, so that's really cool. I really like having that option available to me, because +2 Fire Fang actually I think does less damage to physically defensive Ferrothorn than Flamethrower does. So that's kind of sad. It's kind of sad that we can't just run Fire Fang and make use of our nice physical attack, but oh well. Flamethrower is here. We invested in it. Silvally is going to be basically our, I don't want to say win condition, but our nice setup sweeper to maybe clean up and round things out after the walls, whittle some people down. After that, I decided to bring Pangoro this week. I've mentioned before how I love this Pokemon, how last season I brought it basically every battle and it always did something. This week, I'm running a set that I haven't run with it before. I'm running Scarf Pangoro. Now, Scarf Pangoro actually does outspeed, with this particular EV spread, non-scarfed Rotom. If I put a little bit more in, I would have outspeeded Haxorus, and I'm realizing that now, after the fact. But, oh well, it happens. Not that this thing would have been a Haxorus check anyway, but minor mistake. I've made a mistake like that before in another league, so just gotta really look at what I can outspeed with that Scarf, and is it worth putting 36 in special defense over doing that. But, oh well. We have Earthquake, Close Combat, Knockoff, and Parting Shot. Now, again, pretty basic spread. Parting Shot is, I don't want to say better U-turn, but in some cases it really is a better U-turn, especially if you have multiple Parting Shot users. Parting Shot just really does a good job of crippling things that you don't want to stay in on, make that problem more easy to handle. Knockoff is really good for Cinderace if it has, heavy-duty boots or Choice Band or something like that. What else? We have Knockoff for basically Breuniclus as well. Does decent damage to it, even if he does have Colbur Berry. I believe it's called Colbur Berry. the dark type reducing berry. I've used it before, I should know this. We have Close Combat over Drain Punch this week because, well, I'm not running Iron Fist. Mold Breaker is more necessary for his Levitate users, his Wheezing and his Rotom. I need to be able to hit those with Earthquake, so I need a Fighting Stab that just does more damage immediately. So I went with Close Combat. It does decent damage to Ferrothorn. I probably wouldn't use it unless I guarantee the KO. Don't want to stay in on it and take heaps from, like, Gyro Ball. So Close Combat is here. We take those, and it does good damage to pretty much everything. I was so close to being able to outspeed Non-Scarf Cinderace too. I'm so sad. I was so close. But it happens. My team is slow. I kind of accepted this when I was drafting. And for the last slot, I wasn't exactly sure whether I wanted to run Jellicent here or Shiinotic. I figured Shiinotic helps me with Rotom a little bit more. It helps me with Haxorus a little bit more, except it doesn't. I actually figured that out in Calcs later, but I also didn't really have an answer for Cinderace at this point. Not a solid one anyway. I couldn't Willow it. It doesn't really mind being -1 because it'll just U-turn out. U-turn is a very good move on Cinderace. It's very fast. Fast pivots are basically just free damage. And if you're running Band, that's a U-turn that can do things like 25% to Incineroar. Yikes. So that's why I figured, well, he doesn't really get anything on Cinderace to touch Jellicent, like at all. He doesn't get Knockoff. He gets Shadow Ball, but he's not going to invest that way. He gets Sucker Punch, but I can Strength Sap him down and make Sucker Punch do nothing. And otherwise, he doesn't get an Electric move, he doesn't get a Grass move, and Pyro Ball does next to nothing on physically defensive Jellicent. And aside from that, I think this thing handles Haxorus a lot better. Haxorus gets better coverage, Haxorus gets more, Haxorus gets good coverage for Shiinotic. It gets obviously set up, and there's not a huge amount Shiinotic can do about that other than Spore. It gets access to, even Gastrodon gets access to Sludge Wave, so if he wants to be that guy, he can run Sludge Wave on Gastrodon, and then Shiinotic doesn't even counter Gastrodon. I actually figured that out in a mock battle, and I was surprised. I forgot that it got it, but this is a draft league. You see some whack sets sometimes. So, Jellicent's here. I'm running Giga Drain, Scald, Strength Sap, and Taunt. I was considering running Willow again, but I didn't need another Willow, especially if I have Scald. I have so much Willow on my team. Strength Sap is really good just because I can, stop a D-Dance Haxorus from setting up on me. He actually just can't. He'll always be at neutral and not be able to 2-hit KO me at that rate. Taunt is really good for stopping setup. It stops Ferrothorn, which is otherwise a good swap-in for this thing. If he swaps Ferrothorn into Jellicent, he can just set up hazards, and I can't do much in return. So Taunt is nice, especially since I just by default outspeed him, I think. So we take those for sure. Giga Drain is just on there to touch Gastrodon a little bit better, and I could run Shadow Ball specifically for Reuniclus, but like I said last week, some of my mons have a little bit of that 4-move slot syndrome going on, and it's like, I would run Shadow Ball in a heartbeat if I had the space for it, but I really do think that I need to be able to handle Gastro a little better, because if he Toxics me or whatever, I really want to be able to, deal with him, because I'm not running Toxic, and not having Toxic means I struggle in the late game if that's all he has left, and with Storm Drain, I can't even Scald him. So Giga Drain is here, specifically for Gastro, and we will do our best to handle Reuniclus with Pangoro, Incineroar, that sort of thing. Even +2 Silvally actually does a lot of damage to it, so if he brings it, we'll see what happens. And anyway, that's all we have for the team building section. I think we have a decent shot of pulling this off if we play out of our minds. If we play optimally and make as few mistakes as possible, I think we stand the bare bones of a chance. So we will see how that turns out, and I will turn it over to the battle right now. I'll see y'all in just a sec. Alrighty, here we are. So, looking at his team, aside from bringing Vullaby over Rotom, which I'm not sure if that's good for us or not, Vullaby is pretty bulky, with Eviolite especially. This Pokemon is very, very strong in the lower tiers. If I had to guess, he brought that as his defogger, and as a pseudo-check to, like, Pangoro, but otherwise, I think we predicted his team pretty well, and hopefully we are properly equipped to handle it, so let's dive right in, shall we? So, looking at this, he brought in Haxorus first. which I actually kind of expected, which is why I led with Incineroar. I think he wanted to just kind of get an early setup going and just pressure me, but I was able to intimidate him and force a swap. He goes into Gastrodon. I figured knockoff is really safe, regardless of what he goes into, so I get the Rocky Helmet off of the Gastro. And then I'm faster, so I figure I'm parting shutting out in case he does anything crazy. And here, I didn't know if he was going to go for Scald or Toxic, and I figured Toxic on Jellicent was a lot worse than Scald on Mew, so I went into Mew, and actually got the Synchronized Toxic off, which was kind of nice. So then I go out into Silvally thinking he's not going to stay in. There's no way he's going to stay in. He goes into Vullaby, so nice that we read that swap. He goes into Ferrothorn after that. I went for Multi-Attack, just kind of a safe bet. I didn't want to do anything crazy at the start, so I'm okay with that. So I swap back out into Incineroar, my main check to this thing, and he goes for Rocks. Actually, no, he does not go for Rocks yet. That's later. He swaps out into Cinderace. He then U-turns here, does 25%, so that's a beefy U-turn. He goes into Gastrodon. I go for knockoff again, put him at a nice percentage. I'm like, okay, he's going to probably recover here. So I'm going to want to Parting Shot out and get something else in to start doing some work. I bring in Jellicent because I'm like, he's probably not going to click Toxic here. He's going to click Recover. So he does. He heals up real nice, and I guess he assumed that I had Giga Drain because he went out into Ferrothorn. I'm still at this point in the battle making pretty safe, plays. I didn't want to read too hard, although I probably could have. Ferrothorn was pretty obvious here, but I went for Taunt here, specifically because I'm like, he's going to set up rocks or spikes or something, so I want to stop that as soon as I can. So we did. Ferrothorn is taunted. He's probably going to go for, like, I don't know, Power Whip, Gyro Ball. He goes for Knockoff, though, and he gets Pangoro's Scarf off, which it kind of hurts a little bit. He didn't bring Rotom, though, so it doesn't hurt too bad, I guess. I go for Knockoff here, though, because I figure it's pretty safe, and I knock off Vullaby's Eviolite. That's really, really nice. This Pokemon can't take as many hits anymore. So I Parting Shot out into Silvally Fairy, because, let's be honest, he can't touch me. Yeah, that Brave Bird, which did like 18% at -1, so can't really do much. I expected the Ferrothorn swap here, so I went for Flamethrower. I expected it to do a little bit more, so that tells me he was probably max special defense. That's a good build on his part. That's really cool that he, expected like Flamethrower Silvally. I go for it again, but he goes into Cinderace, so I swap into Jellicent, which he can't really touch. I mean, that did 36%, but I do have Strength Sap, so it's fine. He goes out into Ferrothorn, but I read that swap and go for Taunt a second time. Now, if he has Power Whip, I would expect him to go for it right now. So I swap out again into Pangoro, thinking I can take anything, really. Get some nice damage off on him. He goes for Power Whip, and the fact that he did that much damage, first of all, is astounding, Jesus Christ, but the fact that he swapped out here tells me that he is fully specially defensive and doesn't think he can live a close combat, so I just click it anyway. It hits pretty much everything, and if he goes into Rayu, I can click Knockoff, but he goes into Vullaby, I click it again, down goes Vullaby. It's only 19 turns later. But, anyway, that's the first blood of the match. So I go into Incineroar on this thing, like, okay, if he sets up, that's bad, but I want to get an Intimidate off. So I'm okay if Incineroar goes down here. I just want to cripple this thing so I can handle it with something else. So I do that, and then I go out into Jellicent again. He then goes out into Ferrothorn, which this time I didn't really taunt him. I should have probably taunted in hindsight. There were a few times in this match where I just should have clicked Taunt. Would have stopped a lot of the pressure that I could have had. But anyway, it's fine. I go out into Weezing here, because he can't touch Weezing. He goes for Stealth Rocks. Again, should have taunted here. That was my bad, but that's fine. So he goes out into Reuniclus. I get a Flamethrower off. It does like 15%. It's not much, but it does tell me some crucial information later in the match that he is not Regenerator, which is a huge relief. But anyway, I go out into Silvally here, like I can live a hit, and Silvally's the most expendable here, and he actually misses the Focus Blast, so that's cool. So now I go for Swords Dance. Here is where things start getting iffy. I really didn't want him to go out into Cinderace and get the free kill. That would have been unfortunate. So I'm like, okay, multi-attack should do decent damage, even if he does like stay in or whatever, and if he kills me, it's whatever. I actually live on 1 though, and I'm pretty sure that was a roll. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to multi-attack a second time, because he might read the swap here, or he might read me going for Flamethrower and swap out. He knows it will kill, and he knows I have it. So I go for multi-attack again, and I actually get a max roll because that wouldn't have killed without one, so that's kind of cool. Even if Silvally goes down, at least I took Ferrothorn with me. So he U-turns out into Gastrodon from the Cinderace. I'm able to get a Strength Sap off, get some nice, juicy HP back from the Gastro. Now here, he actually doubles out into Reuniclus, at which point I went for Taunt, which is a relief. If he was Calm Mind Reuniclus, that would have been quite bad for me. So we take those. At this point, Mew is like, whatever. Mew only has one purpose left. I need to get these rocks off the field if I'm going to win this. He goes for Shadow Ball. I live it. Pretty expected. So I am able to get the defog off, and now no more rocks are going to come out. That's a relief. I like having the rocks off my side of the field, so Mew did its job. Now, I go out into... Now that the taunt wears off, I go out into Pangoro. And this is where things start getting iffy. He goes out into Gastrodon, right? So I click Knockoff again. It's the safest move I have. I can get the item off of either Haxorus or Cinderace, and that would be good either way, because I can burn Haxorus or something. That puts Gastro within kill range, so I do that. I close combat him down, and he is dead. So he comes into this thing, and I make the safe swap into Jellicent. He obviously, it turns out, pretty much expected that. So he goes back into Reuniclus. Now, I know this battle's been going on for 36 turns. Don't worry, it's not a 100-turn battle, but I go out into Pangoro expecting him to click Shadow Ball. He gets the Spadef drop, unfortunate. So I'm like, okay, even if he has Colbur Berry, I can't afford to not click Knockoff here. Does a shit ton of damage either way, though, so we take those. I actually live on a max roll, or a min roll, sorry, again, so we really take those, and Reuniclus is down. That is a huge relief for me. So at this point, obviously, he's going to kill me. No reason in setting up when I can, like, knock him off or some shit. So now, here's where I really, really am kicking myself, because he clicks Swords Dance, right? I'm like, I don't know what he's going to do, so I'm going to click Strength Sap, and at worst, it puts him at +1. I could have taunted there, but Strength Sap is still okay. He goes for Swords Dance a second time. I'm like, okay, I need to burn him before I do anything else. And I do get the burn, but he has Lumberry. I really should have clicked Taunt there, because that would have stopped him from doing this, setting up into kill percent, excuse me, because now I no longer live a hit. Strength Sap recovered me nearly to full HP, and even at +2 or +3, and then he could not kill me in return. I could just spam Strength Sap to get him down while he was taunted, and that might have actually won me the game. So we didn't take the W this week that I was really hoping for, but you know, I actually don't feel too bad about it. Especially compared to last season, or again, even like the last few battles I've had, I feel like I'm finally starting to make decent predictions. I feel like I'm not making dumb plays anymore. I'm not just clicking mindless buttons and letting my opponent walk all over me. So even though I lost, I don't feel as bad about it as I thought I would. I know I made that big mistake at the end, but honestly, other than that, I think I put up a really good battle, and that was one of the best battles I think I've ever had. I'm not too upset about that, especially considering a player of Al's caliber. He's really good at this game. He's been doing it for a lot longer than I have, so the fact that I brought it this close is, I guess, something I can be proud of. So it's all good. I've learned now that it's probably better to stop the setup and just take the damage than play it safe that late into the game. I need to take more, I don't want to say risks, but I need to make more plays that help me down the line instead of immediately, if that makes any sense. Other than that, I think we did really well this match. I made a lot of good reads on him that forced him to constantly be on the ropes for most of the battle, and I like that. I like that a lot. And to Al, if you end up catching this video, good game, my man. That was probably one of the best I've ever had. And to everyone else in the woods, good luck moving into Week 5. Hopefully next week we can pull out a W and get that win streak going again. Until then, I am Shatteroo, and I will see you all next time. Cheers, folks.